And I feel, again, your mission, your vision, your purpose is so purpose driven, so heart centered, and so incredibly impactful. When I was growing up, I had a very severe stutter. The very first time in college, I stood up in front of my class of other public speaking students to give my very first talk. I passed out and I wasn't even able to utter my first sentence.
Hey, I'm Justine Reese, vocal empowerment coach, voice actor, and host of Claim Your Voice. If you've ever felt shut down, scared to speak up, told you were too much, or just hated hearing your own voice on playback, you're in the right place. I'll be bringing on experts, creators, and fascinating humans who help people transform from the inside out. Got a topic you want to tackle? Reach out, because helping people claim their voice is my favorite thing. This podcast isn't just about how you sound. It's how you feel about your voice. Visualize it, vocalize it, monetize it. Let's go. Hello and welcome to Claim Your Voice. I am really excited today to bring on somebody who I have been interacting with probably for a few years, and we finally got to meet in person just really a few months ago, but we felt like we knew each other, and this is Linda Fisk. So let me tell you a little bit about her, and we're going to get right into it. Linda Fisk is a multi-award-winning CEO, two-time Stevie International Business Award winner, two-time TEDx speaker, eight-time international best-selling author, U.S. Senator for the WBAF, TV producer and podcast host, keynote speaker, university professor, dedicated to amplifying and extending the success of other high-caliber business leaders. She is the president of Curve Up and the chairwoman of Lead Her Ship Global, a community of unstoppable women enhancing their leadership blueprint and embracing their power to be the best version of themselves in work and in life. Welcome, Linda, to the podcast today. Really
Oh
happy.
my gosh, Justine, I am so excited to be on your podcast. So thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this incredible platform that you have created. And I feel, again, your mission, your vision, your purpose is so purpose driven, so heart centered, and so incredibly impactful. I feel very lucky to be a part of your platform. So thank you, my friend.
Well, that is lovely. We don't often get to hear that when we are hosting. So I received that. And I think it is important that one of the things that I just adore about you, Linda, is that you do much space for women. Something that I have just become aware of in the last few years, as when I'm trying to create something or create an event, that just the act of doing that is often the gift that we are unaware of what is going to happen throughout that. So I really appreciate that. Now, I recently got to read an article that was just done. You've been having lots of press because of all the things that are going on, particularly around Curve Up, and you're combining. I really want you to explain the journey, first of all, from how you got to become this incredibly powerful, multifaceted business leader. What was the journey like? Coming from your upbringing, even? Was this something you think was buried down deep inside you, that you were always going to be a powerhouse leadership type of business woman, or not?
Absolutely not. And given that you are all about reclaiming your voice and empowering your voice, I will tell you that when I was growing up, I had a very severe stutter. From the time that I was in grade school all the way through high school, I had a really hard time communicating with other people because of my stutter. And because of that, I developed some coping mechanisms that essentially led me to self-isolate rather than have to be subject to humiliation and embarrassment and bullying and all of this sort of negative social humiliations that come along with some sort of invisible disability like stuttering. I decided to really isolate myself. Now, interestingly, I had the kind of stuttering that was psychological, not neurological. So what that means is if I found myself in a very safe place with my immediate family, with a best friend, that stuttering would often dissipate over time. But if I found myself in a situation where I was anxious, where I felt uncomfortable, where I felt social pressure, where I felt in any way ill at ease, then I would begin stuttering in such a way that it was really absolutely impossible to understand me or to have a conversation with me. So it was a really difficult, almost invisible disability that most people didn't realize that I was suffering from unless they saw me try to speak in public. So absolutely, at this time in my life, no way did I believe that I had the inclination, the gifts, the talents to be a leader, to be a speaker, to be an author, to be any of the things that I became. But at the time I entered college, I realized for me to actually manifest this life that I envisioned for myself, for me to create the kind of life that I envisioned, that I really was very focused on achieving, it meant that I had to do whatever was necessary to overcome this disability. And so I went through 4 years of rigorous discipline around taking every single opportunity to bring that under control. So that meant therapy, that meant speech therapy, that meant public speaking training, that meant all kinds of speech training and speech therapy to help me reduce my reliance on stuttering patterns. And I will tell you that the very first time in college, I stood up in front of my class of other public speaking students to give my very first talk, I passed out and I wasn't even able to utter my first sentence, literally passed out and later threw up from the experience. It was so overwhelming to me that I was visibly shaking. All of the blood drained out of my head and I literally lost consciousness. So imagine that at the beginning of your public speaking career to 5 years later when I was winning national speaking awards. I was winning national speaking contests. And what transpired during those 4 years was really an entire set of humiliating, embarrassing, level setting experiences that could have defeated me. I could have said, I'm never going to do this.
Absolutely.
I'm never going to be able to overcome this. Or I could adopt sort of this growth mindset saying, I stood up on the podium 10 seconds longer this week than last week, and I'm going to call that a win. Because literally my first class, I never was able to give a talk facing the class. I was never able to do that. The only way I was able to give a talk in front of my class was to turn the podium around so I wasn't facing the class. And then I could give my talk over time with lots of practice and lots of guidance and lots of mentoring and coaching. I could finally give a talk as long as I didn't see the audience. So imagine going from that to being in front of an auditorium of more than 5,000 people, giving a 35-minute talk and literally winning national awards. So that was nothing other than perseverance and moving forward no matter what the embarrassing, humiliating, absolutely soul-crushing experience was. I decided to adopt this idea that, okay, that didn't go as well as it could have, but I'm going to learn from that. Okay, that was really difficult, but it's okay. I've learned from that. I'm going to incorporate what I learned next time. Next time I'll get better. Next time I'll improve. Next time I'll make progress. Next time I'll advance. So honestly, from those very humble beginnings, I never ever believed that I would have the incredible abundance and blessing that I do in my life right now.
You just named so many things that are so appropriate for this podcast because what's so beautiful, there's so many beautiful things about your story, and I know you know them, but your unstoppable nature, your ability to keep getting back up again. They do say glossophobia is a real thing, even though people don't know that term, but that's that true devastating fear of speaking like you experience. I'm going to die if I do this. And what fascinates me is what you said about turning the podium, because that's where I think some people that have this can come into voiceover, and I have helped overcome, and then it transfers back into their real life. And I think
Yeah.
you just put those two things together in such a real way. You realize, okay, if I don't see them, they're just going to hear me. And I would imagine so much of that energy then actually went into your voice, which even made you a more powerful speaker. Does that seem like it might resonate?
Yeah,
No?
now my first year, keep in mind, I still stuttered. So
Yeah.
even though I was reading my talk and I put a ton of time and effort into crafting this beautiful talk, I still had trouble delivering it, even when I wasn't facing the audience. But
Okay.
over time, again, through speech therapy, through speech coaching, through counseling, through
Mm.
all kinds of things that I was doing all at once to overcome this disability I had, by the second and third year, I had learned enough coping mechanisms to overcome the majority of my speech impediments, my stuttering, my repetition of sounds, and I was able to move through most conversations really well. That's always with you. And so even now,
That's right.
before
That's right.
I do a podcast, before I do a television interview, I just did a series of radio interviews, and they're all over my LinkedIn. I prepared. I do not take this idea of speaking publicly lightly. I recognize it's a
Mm.
privilege, it's an honor, and it's something that I know for me, I have to prepare for. Because honestly, I need the level of confidence to know I can step into that environment and I can step into that opportunity knowing that what I have to share is meaningful, is
Mm.
impactful, and I'm confident that I can deliver it with a sense of momentum and a sense of impact, and not regress back into old patterns of speech.
I love that you brought that up, because we all have patterning. That this is part of the whole concept around claim your voice, is figuring out, some people don't know what that moment is. So you so clearly do. But
Yeah.
with the series of moments and this building blocks that you created for yourself, is there one moment, the TED talk, the one talk where you're like, oh my God, that was the moment where you got in flow, let's say, when you were on a stage? You know, that feeling
Yeah.
that we all long for. And it's one of the hardest things, I think, to have when you are dealing with memorizing a script, all the nerves. What do you think is the secret? I have thoughts around this, but what do you think is the secret to overcoming these things? You already said one big one: practice, preparation,
Actually being
and
prepared
practice.
and being fully practiced, so important. But
Is there a moment that you can remember
yes.
that really clicked?
So when I was in my last year of college, my senior year, and I was still taking public speaking courses, I was competing now. I still remember being backstage and being absolutely drenched in sweat. I was so
Mhm.
nervous, being absolutely beyond normal nerves. I was shaking. I was
Yeah.
drenched in sweat. The audience was 5,000 people. I knew I was practiced. I knew I was prepared, but I was so incredibly, it felt like paralyzed with fear. And
Mm.
it dawned on me that there are a lot of actors that must feel this way too. And in
Yes.
fact, there are some really famous actors that say, I'm actually an introvert. And the only way I can get onto that stage on Broadway, or I can be on that television set, or I can be on that movie set, is believing I'm someone else,
A
believing I am the,
100%.
yes,
Yes.
I am the character
That's
that
right.
I'm morphing into. It's not me. It's not Robert De Niro. It's the character I'm playing as Robert De Niro. So I began immediately, maybe 30 minutes before I was due to be on stage, imagining that I was, believe it or not, my father, who is one of the most eloquent, elegant, well spoken orators I had ever seen. personally
Wow.
and upfront. So I
Wow.
thought, how would dad do this? And what would he look like? And how
Love
would
that.
he gesture? And I'm going to go on stage pretending I'm dad. Literally, I pretended to be my father. And I exuded his confidence and I exuded his mastery and his calm, and even his gestures became very second nature to me. And from that point forward, I started adopting this persona of being someone a little bit different from Linda Fisk when I was on stage. And
Okay.
since then, you've heard that Beyonce does that, and like all of these amazing performers and entertainers that you would think never have issues with nerves at all. In fact, they do that. And Beyonce has an alternative alter ego that she has actually named. I think it's Sasha. Every time she gets on
And
stage, she
everybody
becomes
else is trying to
Sasha.
be Beyonce, but she's being Sasha.
That's right. And so it's really funny that a
It is.
lot of entertainers, a lot of actors, a lot of singers that are
Yes.
horribly shy, they do adopt this persona. And so for me, I began doing that. And I really began studying other people who just naturally want to be on stage. They
Mhm.
adore that experience. They're really comfortable. And I started watching and saying, okay, I'm going to pretend I'm Justine Reese. Okay, I'm going to pretend I'm Sally Anderson. Okay, I'm going to and then it became a much more natural sort of extension of who I am because I
Yeah.
was able to be on stage with kind of a persona of who I am.
I love that. And to not be performative, right? You had to
Right.
somehow take on a persona, but not be performative. That's when I think we
Right.
work so hard. You had to stay authentic.
Right.
And I have some tricks for that. But do you have special grounding things you do? I'm a big one, hand on my heart and take a breath if I start to feel too up here. And that's something I try and teach students. Are there some tricks? You're so prolific. What was the and okay, so I have a terrible tendency to ask three questions at once. Tricks would be one, and a moment where it came back again, like with a vengeance, maybe the TED talk, maybe the first time with the biggest stage. Was there a moment where it came back with a vengeance? You thought, I might not make it.
Yeah, I would say that my trick is if I can somehow touch my hands together, to me, that's
Mm,
grounding.
okay.
So there may be times where I pause and I bring my hands together, and it may look like a prayer. It may be like they just simply touch quickly. It could be that I put them together in sort of a crossed configuration. But when my hands come together, it's grounding. It's like me touching me. I am here. I'm in body. I am exactly where I need to be right now. My hands are together. I'm feeling my body. I am present to the experience that's happening right now. So that's really helpful to me.
And
I would
interesting that it's
say,
a physical thing. And I want
yeah,
everyone out there to think about a physical thing. My thing is hand on the heart. Yours might be something, but getting out of doing something physical does get us out of this freak out head space and somehow puts it back into our body. So that's great.
yeah. And that's very much what I do. So it could be bringing them together for a pause like
Okay.
this, or it could be putting them together in front of my body. It could be whatever it is, but bringing my hands together snaps me back into the present moment and brings me back into my body. The the other thing that you asked is, does it ever come back? All the time. When
Mhm.
I find that I become emotionally hot, whether that is anger or sadness,
Mhm.
sometimes even joy, I can find that it prevents my ability to actually be aware of what I'm saying and how I'm saying it. So
Mhm.
emotion begins to cloud my ability to communicate well. So what I really have to do is be very aware of my emotional state before I get on stage, before I do a TV interview, a radio interview. And during that interview, make sure that I stay in control of my emotions. If I get to anything, then it can cloud my ability to be able to speak objectively and with momentum and impact like I want. And what I find often is it's in those sometimes intimate relationships where I can be with my husband, and all of a sudden we have a little spat, or we have some sort of high emotion interaction, and I find that I begin stuttering. And he'll say, "You're doing it again." I'm like, "I know, it's just because I'm anxious, or I'm worried, or I'm angry, or I'm sometimes it's even joy that can."
No, it's interesting though, Linda, because I wonder, we all, I think, challenge ourselves to get into that slight space of vulnerability, that acting trick of, I don't want to lose it. I can't speak about something that I'm too caught up in emotionally, that I'm not,
Right.
that I haven't overcome yet, right? I can't speak about, we see this happen with certain speakers. They get up on stage and now they're just losing it. And if you lose it, I'm not going to stay with you. I
Right. You don't want to speak from an open wound, but a
exactly.
healed over scar. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, the ability, and I wonder if you find that maybe you can just go to that edge or find that edge, because it's interesting. I try to teach myself included and those who are taking stage or working with the voice to learn to utilize emotions. And it actually makes me think what I teach is really important, because I give some tangible, literal graphs that go along with pitch, pace, physicality, and volume can
Mhm.
suddenly not imitate an emotion, but almost help you create the emotion. So I wonder if those things would be helpful, or maybe you think they would be, but that's really interesting. Let's talk about the CEOs, the executives you work with all over the world. Do you see these? What is the biggest lie successful leaders believe, do you think?
I would say one that I see quite a bit is I'm kind of done learning. I've reached that pinnacle of my career. Really don't need to go to any more workshops or webinars. I don't need to invest in my learning. I don't need to invest in myself. And I find that the world is moving so quickly now that if you buy into that myth that you're done learning, then really what you're saying is, I'm okay being irrelevant,
Yeah.
because really you have got to continue to learn to be relevant, especially right now in the day of AI. Listen, every single aspect of our lives is going to look incredibly different in 5 years than it does right now.
It's
If
moving
you're
fast.
not self-aware
Yeah.
of not only how AI is going to affect you, your family, your community, your house, your job, your passion points, your plans, your goals, then you're living in some sort of illusion. And if you really believe that your time of learning is over, then you're saying, I'm okay being irrelevant and passe, because everything, every aspect of our life is going to look wholly different 5 years from now. There will be industries that completely go away. There will
Yeah.
be industries that are completely born. There are going to be jobs that are irrelevant, that completely stop being useful, but there will be an entirely new burgeoning set of jobs that we've never even thought of yet that come to fruition. So
Yeah.
my feeling is right now is the time that we should be investing in ourselves. We should be investing in skill development, in learning, in mastery of every single aspect of what it is to be a leader, whether
Mhm.
that's being able to speak publicly, whether that's being able to be nimble and agile in your decision making, whether that is starting to really pull together the necessary framework and fundamentals to bring your company to the next level. Everything that we think we know and we can just coast on is going to be wholly different in the next 5 years. And now is the time to
Yeah.
really begin investing in yourself and your own learning.
Yeah. So growth, you're a big believer in growth mindset. I think that's so great. Do you see new entrepreneurs, and particularly you work with so many women? Do you
Yeah.
see some women that hit a wall because they don't have this growth mindset?
Oh, 100% all the
Yeah.
time. I
Yeah.
always see that. Now, I will say the other, I think, necessary ingredient that, again, I think a lot of people buy into the myth that if it doesn't happen quickly and easily, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
If my success doesn't feel like flow and doesn't come to me easily and quickly,
Mm.
then it's never going to happen. And I will tell you that looking back now, I can see that the challenges that I faced throughout my career have
Yeah.
been the launch pad of my biggest successes. They've taught me the power of perseverance, tenacity, steadfastness, combined with forgiveness, kindness, and grace. And I will tell you, now is the time that everyone should be really hunkering in on this idea of steadfastness, perseverance. And I really believe that everyone has to, I think, adopt this idea that if things don't come quickly, it does not mean that you can't be successful. It could be that you are 3 feet from gold, but you have to be able to be steadfast, be convicted, be absolute in your perseverance to attain the mission and vision you have for yourself. I think that it's an incredible common misperception that the people that I admire, no matter the industry, they were an overnight success. It happened for them quickly. Look at Linda. She's on all these magazines and radio shows and TV shows. And I didn't hear about Linda 10 years ago. She was an overnight success. Look at her. She, in just a year or two, she's everywhere doing everything. Can I say, as I just indicated to you, this has been a lifelong journey. And this idea that if it doesn't happen inside 12 months or 24 months, then it's not going to happen, is just a fallacy. And I think right now, no matter what else is happening around you, you have to believe in yourself and you have to be committed to your vision and mission, knowing that it's going to take perseverance. It's going to take grit. And in my mind, that is one of the best indicators of future success. Is if you have grit and grace for your ability to persevere even in the face of adversity, then that is a better indicator of your future potential and your future success than even EQ or IQ or any other indicator. The other thing that I would say is that for a lot of women, they really don't have a sense of self-confidence. So they're so likely to give up. They're so likely to just say, it didn't come quickly, it didn't come easily, therefore I'm not meant to do that. But I will tell you, self-confidence is linked to almost every single element involved in a happy and fulfilling life. And yet compared with men, women don't consider themselves ready for promotions. They predict that they'll do worse on tests. They generally underestimate their considerable skill. And they believe that I've hit a couple potholes. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I don't have what it takes. Maybe I don't have enough money in my bank account, or I'm not connected to the right people, or I am not invited to the right stages, so I might as well give up. And I will tell you, confidence gives you the skills and the coping methods to handle setbacks, to handle failure. Now, self-confidence to me doesn't mean you won't sometimes fail, but you'll know how to handle those challenges and not be crippled by them. Even when things don't turn out anywhere close to what you planned, you'll be able to avoid beating yourself up. And that's the other secret that I would offer all women is perseverance is the best determinant of future success along with your level of confidence.
Yeah. And I know I want to send them all to me, Linda, because I really believe that one of our greatest places our confidence is going to show up is when we feel confident in our voice, and both the inside and the outside voice. And I so agree with you that there is often women, by no fault of their own, for whatever reason, do end up being the nurturers and the caregivers and they're giving. They literally do not know how to make that shift to putting the focus on themselves because they feel selfish. How often have you seen that? And what do we say to those women? Obviously, I think one thing you offer is a space to be with other women. How important is that?
Oh my gosh, I think it's personally just so important to be able to very purposefully and intentionally create your power tribe. And what that really means is that you are very intentional, very purposeful about the people that you allow around you, that you cultivate
Mm,
intentional relationship with. These
yeah.
are not the people I happen to see Mary Sue when I walk the dog every morning, so we just became friends. Nope. These are people who are at a particular level of success, or they have traveled a particular road, or they have the kind of life experience and expertise that you want to cultivate in your own life. And by surrounding yourself with women that are going to lift you up, that are going to support you, that are going to tell you the truth in love, and you are particularly and intentionally surrounding yourself with these women, this will be the single biggest change in the trajectory of your life,
Yeah.
because you will become the people that you're most closest to. So think about that. If you chose the 5 people in your life that you're closest to, that you spend the most time with, that
Yeah.
you've cultivated the deepest relationships with, are they reflecting the life that you want for yourself in 5 years? If
Yeah.
they don't have the life you want in 5 years, get ready, because your life will become a mirror of the people that you're with. Your life will begin to emulate the people that you've cultivated the deepest relationships with. So I will tell you that being really intentional about the people you cultivate relationship with is the single most, one of the, I guess I can't say the single, but one of the single most important decisions that you're going to make in your life.
Yeah, I think that reflective, that mirror effect, finding as I'm there were groups of women that I didn't know about, being introduced to a group called the She Angels that you may have met some when you were here,
Yeah.
that are giving money to nonprofits run by women, which I was able to help coordinate a grant for the menstrual cup movement. But also there's another side of that She Angels, and they're She Angel investors. And this is something, if you don't know about this, Linda, I'm going to give a plug for my friend Catherine Gray, because she had me on
Yeah.
her podcast called Invest in Her. And she made a movie produced a film called
Show
Show
her
Her
the
the Money. Do
money.
you know
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. You had
Okay.
a big watch party for that.
Oh, you did? I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
it.
We
Have
did.
you met Have you met
I
Catherine?
have.
Okay,
We've had a couple of
great.
meetings.
Yeah, she's absolutely lovely. And I was unaware. I watched the movie before I went on the podcast because I was like, I got to understand this more, because having been married for a long time myself, and it's not like we were rolling in dough, but I just let him do all the investing. I didn't know anything about it. And so many women are like this.
Yeah.
How important is it, as hard as it may be, or as hard as we think it may be, to understand all of these elements that are going on in our life, our financial, our personal, our inside? I feel they all reflect on each other. What do you think about that?
Oh, 100%, Justine. We have been actively involved in a nonprofit called the Women's Wealth Symposium for about 6 years. And a couple of years ago, we hosted a big event for women called the Women's Wealth Symposium. It was a full day event, and I was the chair of the event. Since then, I've served lots of different roles in the event, but about 2 years ago, I chaired the event. We had about 250 women in the room, and we had about 20 speakers, all of whom talked about how to take that very first small step into understanding your financial wealth, understanding your financial stability, understanding your financial options. And the entire day was really dedicated to helping women shape their financial future. I don't care if you only had 2 dimes to rub together, or you had millions and millions of dollars that maybe you had just inherited, and you were trying to figure out, what in the heck do I do with this windfall? I want to create generational wealth. I want to create legacy wealth. But honestly, I'm not sure the best ways to begin thinking about the application of this windfall of multi-millions of dollars that I've received, or that I've earned, or that I am
Right.
now
Everybody thinks
entrusted with.
that can actually be that windfall can be the scariest moment of your life, because you don't want
100%.
to mess it up. All the feelings around money suddenly start cropping up. And I think this education is at the core of, and being willing to go and take the little grains of sand and
Yes.
start and have, again, the growth mindset. I think we should know all this stuff, but why?
And we really
How?
made the environment very safe. So we said, listen, you've never heard of a REIT? No problem. Let me explain what a REIT is. You don't know what alternative investments include? No worries. Let me explain what alternative investment means and what the pros and cons of each of those individual classifications look like. We really broke down the architecture of thinking about financial welfare down to the basic essence, right? Like a bank account versus a money market. What is the difference and why should you have either or both? And so
Right.
I think we really helped create a very safe space for women to ask anything
I
that
love
they
that.
wanted to and to get connected to the speakers that were saying, hey, I help with investment. I help with budgeting. I help with family priorities. I help with whatever it is that those women offered as services. There was something for everyone, and every single person in that room had time to speak to one of the experts and say, here's where I need help. How can I get in touch with you? So it was a beautiful day. And again, we hold the Women's Wealth Symposium every single year during International Women's Day. And
So in March, you do it in March.
yeah, that's right.
Okay, I want to come this year. That sounds amazing.
Yes, I would
Next
love for
year.
you to.
Yes. What do you think is, we've really covered so many things without me asking you, but where does Linda get to let her hair down? You are always, to me, so composed, and you always seem very busy, but you always show up. You're on time. What is the secret to that for you? And where do you let down your hair and go play pickleball, or I don't know. I hope you do
Yeah.
something radical, wild, and fun sometimes.
Yeah. I would say a couple things. One, I think as a leader, you really need to understand what your principles and values are and really take
Mm,
that seriously. What do you stand for in your personal brand? What do you stand for? What are the principles and practices and values that you are going to speak to, act on,
mm.
behave in alignment with, no matter what the stakes are, no matter what the difficulties are? I am not going to change from this value set. This is absolutely ingrained in who I am as a person and as a leader. This is what I value. So I think that what is actually pretty consistent in my personal and professional life, because who I am as a person, the values that I hold as a person remain consistent on camera, off camera, with my family, with my business associates, with my partners, with everyone in my life. They would say, yep, that's Linda. That's exactly who she is at church. That's exactly who she is with us as friends. That's exactly who she is with her running group or dive group or whoever. So those are the values and the principles that I really hold dear. I honor people's time. I show up promptly. If I say something, I do it. I do not make commitments lightly, but if I make a commitment, I absolutely deliver. Things like that. Those are principles and practices that I absolutely hold sacrosanct, right? And the only time I can imagine in the last 10, 20 years where I've had to ask for forgiveness and push something back or not show is I was in the hospital. If I'm in the
Yeah.
hospital and I'm unable to, I even explain that, hey, we have a call in 2 hours and I'm so sorry, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to reschedule and here's why. So I don't think there's any excuse for just blowing things off. That's just not who I am and not what I
Yeah.
represent.
I love that about you. And I've recently, through one of my coaches, who I've gotten a lot of the transformational meditation vision work with, which has really helped not only me, but my clients so much. I really believe you've got to understand where you want to go before you can start navigating a ship there. And that's one of the biggest problems for people, I think. But the idea around attachment theory and how it can show up in our business life too. We think of attachments more about our romantic relationships, but so much of what you said, I recently was introduced to something called CARP, which is being consistent. I'm forgetting what the A is, but it's about being reliable. It's about being consistent and predictable. not meaning, oh, I knew you were going to say that, but more in terms of what you're saying. Like when we make a commitment to somebody, if we can't, no ghosting, right? No
Right.
proverbial ghosting, at least checking in and saying things like, hey, day got really busy, but I'll be underwater until 4 o'clock and then I can talk to you, or something like that. And I really am happy to start to unpack some of the anxiety that can come around my own realizing, oh, okay, I was treated this way as a kid,
Right.
these patterns that can show up. So if Mouse could meet the woman sitting in front of me today, or the vice versa,
Yeah.
what would you say to her? Or what would she say to you?
Yeah. I often reflect on my life and I try to mine all of my experiences for the lessons learned throughout my life. And I would say that looking back now, all of the happiest and most successful people that I've ever met in my career, and I have met some phenomenally successful, incredibly accomplished masters in their profession. They all had one thing in common. They found a way to contribute value to the world, and they were rewarded really well for that effort. So think about that for a minute. The seeds of your wealth are tucked away in a very surprising place. Your greatest interests, your greatest passions. Of course, simply following your passion isn't enough. You have to find a way to make your passions pay. That means you don't just have a hobby, you actually have a career or a job. But that means finding a way to use your interests and talents to contribute value to the world. And I really believe that if you are able to find your purpose, your mission, your vision, you are able to really follow your passion, you're going to find a way of creating value in the world. And by creating value in the world, you will be well rewarded. So in my mind, having an abundant life is really all about figuring out what you love doing. Now, many times, to your point, Justine, people try to do something that other people do, but simply because they see others around them being successful. And they're like, oh, I want to do that because they have a lake house and they have a Maserati and they have whatever they have. And I really want that. So I'm going to do whatever they're doing. But the more that you align with what you love doing, the more abundance you're going to attract in your life. So when I really realized that my gift, my talent, my experience, and my expertise was really grounded in helping entrepreneurs grow and scale their business and helping women get access to the kinds of privileges, benefits, and opportunities that they normally feel shut out of, well, everything began to unlock. Everything, every bit of blessing and abundance that I had ever wished in my life started to flow. And I think a very simple step to identifying your own personal passion pursuits is to start recognizing what you love in your life right now. One of the things that I began loving when I got past my invisible disability of stuttering is actually listening to people and hearing their stories and being in conversation with them and being able to be in relationship with them. So what I would say is take the time to appreciate right now everything you have in your life. Maybe it's great health. Maybe it's the people you love. Maybe it's your colleagues, or maybe it's something you're learning. Maybe it's just simple beauty of nature. But you're going to find yourself realizing how abundant your life is right now. And what you need is right in front of you to build that abundant life.
That's almost good enough to end on, but I have a lightning round to put you through first.
Ooh, okay.
Really great. And I really, you mentioned in this short time together, you mentioned forgiveness, you mentioned gratitude, you mentioned abundance, you mentioned purpose. It's so these core values that I can see, not just that you live by, but that you run these global, wonderful organizations. One more question though, how do people, is there any not right fit for, what is a not right fit? What is a right fit for Curve Up and Leadership Global?
I will tell you, I say no to more women that want to join Leadership Global than I say yes to. And the reason is I meet 100 women a week, maybe more.
Sure.
And when I'm meeting them, if they show up with a scarcity mindset rather than a growth mindset, meaning I don't have enough, so I've got to take whatever you have, and I need to take whatever she has, and I need you to give me more, and I need to be fed, and I need to be resourced, and I need more and more. That is not a good fit. Because with Leadership Global, we lead with value. The first question we ask is, how can I be of service to you? What can I do for you? What do you need? How can I help? Yeah. And that is not just rhetoric. That is an absolutely intentional question around how we can best serve. And if you meet the other members of Leadership Global, that's exactly the question they lead.
I love
How
it.
can I help you? What can I do to serve you? What are you looking for? How can I advance whatever your definition of success is? So if I meet someone who's in that scarcity mindset saying, but I need to sell 10,000 of these, and I need to meet all the people that can buy this, and I need you to introduce me to everybody that has this kind of wealth or this kind of abundance or can pay this kind of price point for my thing, they're not a good fit, because our community is not just about selling to each other. It's about leading with value and deeply investing in each other's success.
I love it. I just love that. And honestly, it was not something I was really taught. Not that I had parents that weren't kind and generous. I just wasn't really taught the service mindset. And I will tell you, Linda, I had David Meltzer on the podcast a few weeks ago, and he said something that resonated so much. And he said, when I'm in service, when I'm coaching, when I'm closest to God. And I was like, man, me too. I could be having the worst day, but if I get to come in and help you with your voice or something else, your vision, I instantly am calm. So I agree. And I love leading with that. Okay. Lightning round. What's one word that defines leadership?
Service.
What's one belief you've had to unlearn?
That's all about what I can do and what I can create. And it's all the pressure and responsibility is on my shoulders. And I am ultimately responsible for every aspect of my business.
You've already answered most of these questions. What's bringing you joy right now?
The ability to really help women accelerate their success in meaningful and tangible ways. The success stories I could tell you would blow you away, Justine. And it's miraculous to see the transition and transformation that these women are making in their lives.
I love that. And finish this sentence. Your voice is
a gateway to your soul.
I believe that too. Yes. Well, Linda, this was amazing. We can find you in all the places, but where would you like to tell us to go find you? We'll of course list everything in the show notes about things that we discussed.
I tend to be fairly well tied into and fairly responsive on LinkedIn. So I will admit I get about 300 LinkedIn messages a day, but I do have a team of people that star any messages that are directly to me that I know this is a person who's trying to connect, trying to meet, trying to receive support or help or guidance, connection. And we do absolutely respond to all of those messages every single day, every single week. And I do look at every single message from everyone, man or woman, who needs support and help. And I'm really happy to connect with anyone on LinkedIn.
And I will say, you practice that for sure. I really have to ask this one last question, because you mentioned team. And I think many women who are struggling or just starting out, building their solopreneurship, their entrepreneurship, what is the best way to build a team?
The neat thing is, in the advent of AI, your team could be agentic AI supporters and helpers. You don't have to anymore invest in fractional talent, virtual assistants, virtual CFOs or COOs or marketing staff or social media support. Literally, through agentic AI, You could have a staff of 20
Yeah.
AI agents that are doing all of the tasks that you don't have time for, that are not the best and highest use of your time. So you could have an AI agent dealing with social media, dealing with marketing, dealing with email marketing, dealing with organizing your email in your inbox. Literally, there are AI agents that can be deployed against your business in every single aspect. So what I would say is now is the golden age of entrepreneurialism, because no longer do you have to invest in people until you're truly ready. And you can have the kind of level of support that you need to grow and scale your business with zero human support until such time that you really are ready and capable, and I think financially secure enough to invest in human staff.
Great. That was a great place. And it's not, we don't love human, because we love human and we love real voice.
Human.
But this is important to know that we can build in a more economical way. Thank you so much, Linda, for being on Claim Your Voice today. I can't wait to see you again in person and give you a hug and continue collaborating wherever we can.
Thank you so much, Justine. What a pleasure and what a privilege. Wow, you are such a talented host. You're such a talented coach. I feel blessed that our paths have crossed and we get to work much more closely now. So thank you so much, my friend. And honestly, the kind of impact you are going to make with the other leaders of Leadership Global is going to be phenomenal. So I'm grateful for all of the vision and all of the support and all the expertise that you generously share with the other leaders of Leadership Global. So thank you.
Thank you for creating the space. More to come.
More to come.
Thanks for joining me on Claim Your Voice. If something here sparked your inner voice or made you finally stop cringing at your own playback, share this episode with someone who needs it, because clarity creates connection. Connection creates opportunity, and your voice was never meant to stay quiet. And if you've got an idea about something you'd like to hear about on Claim Your Voice, send me an email or put some notes in the chat. Till next time, visualize the dream, vocalize the truth, and monetize the magic.